Hello, this Mystico video on the rise of hyperboles in film criticism was sponsored by Chris over on Patreon. If you want to throw your support and possibly suggest some video ideas of your own, guaranteeing their spot on the schedule, just visit my Patreon. Link is in the description. And now, on with the show. With the rise of more film criticism surfacing in recent years, there's a trend I've been noticing that is not doing the forum many favors. And that is hyperbolism. Now, hyperboles are a common emotion and response in society, but when it comes to film criticism, it has led to many extremes being expressed. It seems films are only allowed to be the greatest thing ever made, or the lowest of the low, with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Nuances and in-betweens aren't as prevalent anymore. The sort of hyperbole I tend to not be fond of is of the over-the-top ridiculous variety. You know what I mean. I'd rather step on 500 rakes than sit through The Last Airbender again. No, you wouldn't. You'd rather watch a bad movie on a screen for 90 minutes than physically hurt yourself with garden equipment. I feel like the art of the rant has been diluted lately, as it mostly comes from who can shout the loudest and come up with the craziest phrases. There's a way of expressing your dissatisfaction with something without resorting to ridiculous phrases. They can be lyrical and smart. Roger Ebert was particularly good at this. Take this excerpt from his review of The Cat in the Hat, where he expresses his annoyance with Mike Myers' interpretation of the titular feline. It's been said you should never marry anyone you wouldn't want to take a 3-day bus trip with. I've another insight. Never make a movie about a character you can't stand. Ebert used a realistic scenario to properly explain his dislike of The Cat in the Hat, rather than comparing it to an unlikely choice he would never find himself making. Even Ebert's infamous review of North managed to express his hatred for that film in a way that was clear, but never felt over the top and taken to ridiculous levels.
I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it. Unquote. And so on. Altogether, I used the word hated 10 times. I have to give North credit for one thing, though. When I was preparing for this show, I didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out which was the year's worst movie, so it saved me time.
And most importantly, he did not personally insult the director. It's gotten to a point where people start to take personal offense to a bad film and lash out at the filmmakers, who at the end of the day are just trying to make something good. Nobody sets out to make a bad film after all. Recently, there's been a lot of sympathy given towards Zack Snyder after a horrible tragedy happened to him earlier this year. However, when Batman vs. Superman was released, oh boy, I think I saw every horrible adjective given to him because of that film. And why? Because people didn't like it. And that's fine. You don't have to like Batman vs. Superman or any of his other films. You don't have to agree with his interpretations of the Man of Steel and the Caped Crusader. However, I felt so many of the remarks given to Snyder by not only fanboys, but even critics and reviewers, bordered on frankly despicable. But I thought, well, maybe he himself has an ego of some kind and is a bad person off camera. So I watched a bunch of interviews with Zack Snyder and read about his off-screen life, and in the end, all I found out was he was a passionate filmmaker who likes what he does and puts his all into the movies he makes. No actor or producer has ever said they hated working with him, or that he treats people badly on set. It seems a lot of people have started taking their dislike of a film and seem to associate those in the credits as horrible people for putting that on screen. This came to a head this summer when Paramount Pictures blamed the aggregate score on Rotten Tomatoes for Baywatch's underperformance at the box office. The immediate response was, well, just make good movies then. But do you really think the director walked onto the set of Baywatch and said, okay everyone, we'll shoot scene 21 today, let's take advantage of the nice weather we have right now. Oh, and one more thing, let's make a film critics are going to hate. That's my wish. Dwayne, are you not being funny? Good to know. And action. Of course not. Sometimes a director makes a good film, and sometimes they make a poorly received film. It happens. I remember when it came out of Pixels and was rather disappointed in it. So I decided to look up some interviews with the film's director, Chris Columbus. And listening to him discuss the making of Pixels, I could see why he felt those ideas would work and had potential. I was underwhelmed by the finished product, but he clearly put a ton of thought and effort and tried his best. I feel like one of the biggest cop-outs in criticizing a film is saying, oh, they just put no effort into it. You don't know that. A movie could be a complete passion project for a director, something they've been working their entire career towards, and it could still end up being disappointing. If you decide to build a table, even if you follow the instructions and you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and spend hours drilling the nails and trying to get it up right, that table could still end up being shoddy and falling to pieces. How would you feel if somebody then went up to you and said, well, you just put no effort into it? So many people do that with filmmakers, and I don't think that's fair. One film that got a ridiculously over-the-top reaction even before the initial teaser was released is the Emoji Movie. I did a video last year where I explained why I thought it could be good. I did not like the finished film, but I don't regret making that video because I still think the Emoji Movie could have worked. However, reading the reviews, you think Tony Leontis and all the Sony executives had run over people's dogs. The Emoji Movie is a stupid 90-minute movie on a screen. It did not give you cancer or give you depression or any kind of stupid hyperbolic phrases that are frankly insulting to those who actually do suffer from those things. It's a crummy movie about sentient smiley faces, not the end of civilization or the end of cinema as we know it. The existence of the Emoji Movie does not negate Dunkirk, Baby Driver, Detroit, The Big Sick, Logan Lucky, Spider-Man Homecoming, and other strong and well-liked films that opened this summer. It's ironic when one of the most nuanced think pieces about the Emoji Movie that took the time to look at the film's many negatives and even its few redeeming qualities with a degree of professionalism was from a channel called I Hate Everything. When it comes to reviewing films, there are certain words I try to avoid, because I find them to be rather mean-spirited and harsh. This is not some form of self-censorship. It's about recognizing words have power. It's why you don't see me using words like trash, cancer, awful, and garbage when describing the quality of a film, why I avoid buzz terms like Mary Sue that have lost all meaning, and why I will never call filmmakers hacks. They're not hacks, they're people. And at the end of the day, they just want to create a piece of work. It doesn't matter if it's a small independent film or a big commercial product. The intent is always the same. And I think a degree of respect and professionalism is important. I have a personal rule where I don't assume I'm smarter than the filmmakers, because chances are high I'm probably not. I have great admiration for them going on set or sitting in the editing room every day and creating something that we'll either enjoy or not. However, they're creating a piece of cinematic art, and regardless of the quality of the final product, I think that's wonderful. People often wonder why I don't rant, and honestly, it got to the point where I just realized I'm too old for that. And I want my criticisms to be taken somewhat seriously. I think everyone wants that at the end of the day. See you next time.